right, guys, please welcome from the Friday the 13th franchise, Steve Dash, Thom Mathews, and William Butler.
Oh, okay, he's here, I'm not doing it. That guy's trouble.
You got nameplates?
Name?
Oh.
Yeah.
They may be wrong.
Oh.
No, they're right.
Oh, I found it.
Hi, how are you? Nice to see you.
You got a nameplate but no mic, so just sit there and be quiet.
So,
Robert.
how are you guys doing? Having a good weekend?
No,
No?
no, I had a bad weekend. I got cramps.
Oh, that's horrible.
That time of the month, huh, Steven?
Yeah,
I got gas. It's bad. Heartburn. I'm 74. It's a 2-minute warning. I'm on a 2-yard line. And I'm out of timeouts.
Oh. Well, ask your questions quick.
You got room for a Hail Mary, though. Like,
Oh, God, I've had so many Hail Marys you can't imagine. We're here to do a Q&A, not a medical report.
your Jason, Steve, is so iconic in his own right.
I know.
But he's also so different than by the time we get to 6 and 7.
I know.
He's very methodical.
I know.
Did you watch the first one before you got cast as Jason for the second one?
No. You got to remember, when I did it in 1981, Friday the 13th was nothing.
Yeah.
It wasn't what it is today. You have to keep that in mind when you talk to me because it was a job.
And I would imagine a lot of filmmakers that I talk to, they say you make something like Friday the 13th with zero expectation that it's going to evolve into what it is today, obviously.
Absolutely.
Multiple generations.
Had I known then what I know now, there wouldn't have been any other Jasons. And that's a fact. I was asked to do 3, and I turned it down. I was doing a soap opera with Kevin Bacon called, I forget the name now, but I was on a soap opera with Kevin Bacon, and they asked me, I want to do Friday the 13th Part 3, and I said, what do I want to do that for? I'm working. What do I want to do that for? And had I known, and I say again, and I say it many, many times, it's been 37 years, and had I known then what I know now, I would have never turned it down. Of course, I would have been another Robert Englund. I would have had a line as long as Linda Blair.
And Thom and William coming in at the part now, by the time you guys joined the team, it's a franchise. Were you guys watching the movies up until the point that you guys came on board?
I looked at 5, and honestly, I was scared after I got signed up to do part 6, so I started to do research for Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah.
To see if I could to keep the character consistent, pull any mannerisms from that John. Didn't see anything, and quite frankly, 5 scared the hell out of me. I was thinking, I didn't know what I got myself into.
Yeah.
But that being said, no, like Steve, we're a young actor in Hollywood just trying to get a job, like most of us.
Yeah.
Just happy to work, and it just kind of worked out. Had no idea that would grow into the...
How much prep did you go into? Because when you take over a role like that, and for the way that I look at that franchise, you're like, Tommy Jarvis is like Jamie Lee to Michael Myers, because he has this ongoing feud. He's calling him maggot face, and it's like that relationship. Even like when we talked about Never Hike Alone, like when you come back and you see him again, because when you have your first scene as Tommy, you're driving to the cemetery, and you already have the hatred, and previous movies show us why, but that's your first scene. How much prep did you do to kind of jump on board at that point?
I basically, every time I just look at the script and see emotionally where the character is and just kind of go from there. I think Friday Part 6 for me is the closest I've played to myself as a person than any other role I've done before in the past or future. So in that sense, it was easier, but it's just trying to keep true to the character and be on track emotionally with the part.
When you came on board, your kill is still one of my favorites of the whole thing.
What?
I can
Are you
remember.
out of your mind?
You don't like it?
Machete in the head, down the stairs backwards is the best
Yeah, all right.
kill scene
All right.
in the whole goddamn franchise.
I will say this for
You have any idea how much work went into that shot?
no.
What's
I will
his
say,
kill scene? What's your kill scene?
He gets
I can't even remember.
Yeah, you said Jason.
wind
Which
up in the
one? I got
tree.
killed
You
a
wind
bunch
up
of
in the
times in
tree.
that one.
Oh, you're
yeah.
talking about the potato sack against the tree?
No. He gets like origamied into a tree almost.
Oh God, please, that's kid stuff. Machete in the head
We'll be
backwards.
reenacting
That's a kill.
Hey, first of all, I just want to say, as the biggest horror nerd on the planet, to hear Tom's voice, that very distinctive voice, like the fanboy in me is just like, oh my God, I'm sitting next to Tommy Jarvis. It's like, do you hear that Friday the 13th? Jason's alive and rah, rah, rah. So good. I used to see, before I booked Friday the 13th, you probably won't remember this. I think we have similar friends, like, I don't know if you know Matt Dearborn and all
Yeah,
those
of
guys,
course.
Tommy Hinckley, yeah. We had the same friends, but we never really hung out, ever. But I will tell you this, that, I'm like the biggest horror fan on the planet, and I hope you don't mind me mentioning, you used to work out at Bally's on Hollywood and Gower, and I lived right there, and I used to see him on the Stairmaster going, that's the guy from Friday the 13th. I can't believe I'm in the same room. And then somehow I bamboozled my way into the franchise myself. The one that you're also featured in. It was like the coolest thing ever. So anyway, yes, I had a great time. Yes, my fucking kill is so much cooler than yours, and I'll take you on anytime. No, I'm kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. This is
I'm
all.
going to get the bag.
God damn it. I sit at my table's next to
getting
his.
the bag.
He's got that sack, that thing there. It's so weird to hear people say to him all day long, will you sign my sack? It's like the strangest thing. Will you sign my sack? Well, how much? You got $45? I'll sign your grandmother if you bring her over.
$50. $50, not 45.
All right, that's me talking now. All right, bye.
So we get our first look at Jason with you, Steve. How did that role find you?
Oh, I was, it was 1980, and I was in New York, and at the time, Screen Actors Guild was on strike, and nobody had worked in about 6 months, 7 months. It was really, really tough. And I was married, and I had 3 kids, and I wasn't getting any work. And I got a call from Cliff Cudney, who was a stunt coordinator on Friday. And he called me and he said, listen, I'm doing this film up here in Connecticut. We got approval to keep shooting, because they started shooting before the strike. And they were the only ones working. And Cliff was a stunt coordinator. I was a stunt man. And he called me up and he said, listen, he says, I'm working on this show up here in Connecticut. He said, it's called Jason. And that's what the working title of Part 2 was, Jason. It wasn't Friday the 13th, Part 2. And he said, we're doing this film, Jason, up here. He says, and listen, the guy that they hired to play Jason is bad. He says, we're going to fire the guy. He can't do his own stunts. He says, and I think you'd be perfect for this job. And I said, yeah, Jason? He said, yeah. I said in my mind, a lead role in a film. Holy shit. I had only been in the business for about 1.5 years, so here I am thinking I have a lead role in a film, and it was Jason. So he says, can you get up to Connecticut? And I was broke, so I borrowed $25 from my brother-in-law for gas. And I drove up to Connecticut from New York, and I get up there, and they bring me into the production office, and Steve Miner is sitting there with Dennis Murphy, the producer, and Cliff brings me in, and he said, this is Steve Dash, and they're looking me up and down. They're sitting down, they're looking me up and down. They said, he looks pretty good. Take him out of the wardrobe, see if he fits the costume. So I said to Cliff, what's that all about? He said, well, we already shot some stuff with this guy wearing the Gillette. We shot him running in the woods, his feet and stuff like that. So you gotta match the costume. So I said, okay. So we go into wardrobe, and I put the coveralls on and all that shit. I go back into production. And I try the shoes on. The shoes don't fit. He says, the shoes have to fit. I said, they don't fit. They're too small. He says, the shoes have to fit. We already shot him. He said, if the shoes don't fit, you don't get the job. So I squeezed my foot in the back of the shoe. I cut it with it. And I got the shoes on. I walk into production. They said, hey, he looks great. He says, get the bag. I said, what bag? He says, you got a bag over your head. I said, a bag? What do you mean a bag? He said, well, and here I'm thinking I'm going to be on a Johnny Carson show after the movie opens and all this shit. And I'm thinking I'm going to be on Johnny Carson with a bag over my head. So I said, the bag? He said, yeah. He said, because see, you wear this bag during the whole shooting. You're killing kids that are having sex. Yeah. You know, all this stuff is going on. And then at the end of the movie, they kill you when they take the bag off, and there's this distorted face. I said, really? He said, yeah. I'm thinking, I haven't worked in 6 months. And one of my guys said, I want to take the job. So I said, all right, let me see the script. He says, you don't have any lines. You got I got a lead role in a movie, I got a bag over my head, and I got no lines. And then after the movie shot, I found out I don't even have a credit in the front of the film. I got a credit in the back of the film. That's my story.
That's the best. Goodbye. That's the best story ever.
Whip.
I'm on the team.
Mic drop?
You talk about the wheelchair kill and all
Yeah.
that. How much prep goes into that? Because that is the realest kills are your kills as far as
That-
by the time we get to these guys, he's ripping arms completely out and everything else.
Yeah, I don't want to take any time away from the other two guys, but I'll just tell you this about that shot. And I really think it's the best shot in the whole Friday series. Because aside from the water scene in your film with the under the water deal, yeah, but the 2 weeks prep went into that shot. The guy that was in the wheelchair, the double, he was a stunt double. His name was Tony Ferrantino. Now, I don't know how many of you know, you're kind of young, but the older people must know James Ferrantino. That was Tony Ferrantino's brother, who was a stunt man. And he was in the wheelchair. That wheelchair had to be rigged. We put weights on the bottom where the feet were. It was tied to the railing that went down so it wouldn't tip over backwards. And the appliance was applied to his head in a way that it wouldn't fall out. And there was make-believe rain. They had a guy there, they called him the Rainmaker, and on films, and that's what he did. He set up these hoses. And there was no rehearsal. It was we practiced for a week, make-believe going backwards. And then the night of the shot, there was, I think, about 7 cameras on different angles to get the shot because we could only get it once. And it was quite a shot. It was at night, it was raining, it was down the stairs, and I'm telling you, I thought that was one of the great stunts that go down in the history books in the stunt business. Thank you.
No, it is.
Thank you.
Thom, you have just like classic battles with him throughout these altercations, but the one of the coolest thoughts on that film, that was one of the coolest ways that they bring Jason back. It's like Frankenstein Jason. You drive the fence pike through his chest and lightning crashes and he's reanimated and all that, but how was that scene? What was some of your favorite scenes to film in that
Yeah,
movie?
the opening sequence before the credits even roll is great. Tom McLaughlin, who directed, is a big horror fan, and he tried to get in all that some of the older school horror iconic films in, like the the lighting for Frankenstein. They had when I'm on the phone in the phone booth, in the background is the Karloff supermarket. So it had a bunch of little treats like that all over the place. But the opening scene was great. Throw gas on them, try to light them on fire, let it burn them, and then it starts to rain. Just one thing after another. But it's a really exciting opening scene. Yeah.
Where'd they film that?
We shot that in Georgia, in Covington, just outside of Atlanta. Little small, sleepy town.
William, when you got you're coming on board at 7, were you stoked that by the time they had done this, that the bulk of that is like you're back kind of at the beginning, back at the camp, versus like if you, it was like in Tommy's, he's going to the graveyard and he's got like the road chase, and there's a lot more where 7 felt more like full circle, I guess, like you're back to where it all began.
Well, first of all, I was such a fan that I had seen the first one at the drive-in, and that I had, again, somehow made my way into a franchise that I really did truly love. That I could have taken place on the moon and I would have been happy. But the very fact that we got to walk past, albeit the fake Crystal Lake sign, it's a different Crystal Lake sign, that to me was really awesome. And yes, there's nothing about that project that the cast, the location was amazing in Point Clear, Alabama, which basically doesn't exist anymore. A hurricane wiped it. There's nothing there now. Years ago, the hotel, certainly the house is gone, because we all know, for those of you who have seen the film, that they built this facade of this cabin out in the middle of Point Clear, Alabama, that they were just supposed to make this explosion where the windows were exploded out. And if you watch the film, it's like, it's not only the house is gone, but like the trees are gone. No more animals can live there anymore. There's mutants. It was like the biggest explosion you'd ever seen. It was awesome. Yeah.
I want to tell you a funny story about the end of Friday the 13th Part 2, where he gets the machete in the shoulder in the shack, all that shit. So I got hurt on that film quite a bit. Amy Steele kicked the shit out of me. She really did. I had broken ribs. I got burned. She came down with the machete in the shack and cut my finger. This finger, I got 13 stitches in this finger. So I had been to the hospital 3 times during the shooting and went back to work. So they got to know me at the hospital, obviously, So the last scene in the film where she comes down with the machete in my shoulder, I'm laying down there and I'm laying on the floor, and they said, "All right, cut." Cliff comes over, he looks over at me and he says, "How you doing?" I said, "Good." He says, "It was a good shot." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I got an idea." He said, "What?" I said, "Let's go to the hospital." He said, "For what?" I said, "With the machete in my shoulder." He says, "That's a great idea." So we got in the car, I got the machete in my shoulder, I got blood all over me. There's blood, the artificial blood is like crazy. And we're driving in the car, and as we pull up to a light and we stop, there's 2 old ladies in the next car, and they look over,
Yes,
and they see me with the machete in my shoulder, and they go, "Oh my God." At any rate, we get to the hospital. Cliff says, "You wait out here, I'll go in." And so he goes inside, and they said, "You're back?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "It's bad." They said, "Really?" He says, "Yeah." And I gave him time, and as I come walking through the door, there I am with the machete on my shoulder, and they're all looking at me like. I walk up to the desk and I said, "You got anything for a headache?"
Good one.
I got one more question, and then we'll open it up to everyone, because we want to make sure we got plenty of time for all you guys. Taking Freddy Krueger out of the equation, if they were going to do a Jason versus film, who would you guys want to see Jason versus?
Donald Trump.
Hillary Clinton.
I'm going to go Switzerland on this one.
So with that, let's open it up to some Q&A. Anybody have a question for the group?
Sorry.
All the way in the back there?
This is for Thom. How did you get involved with the Never Hike Alone project?
They had already shot half of the film, and then coincidentally, I had a really good friend of mine whose roommate knew Barry J, who was the executive producer on it, and so he's a big horror fan, so he brought Vincent, the director, Vincent DeSanti, and we all dinner and we just started talking, and was there to sign some stuff for them as a friend, and just started talking, and he said, well, we're doing this fan film, and so he sent it over to him, and it looked amazing, the drone shots, and the kid was really good in it, and I said, yeah, let's see if we can figure something out. So there was a part for one of the parts left that they hadn't shot was the paramedic, and so we kicked it around and gave him some ideas. He originally died in the original script, and I said, well, Tommy Jarvis can't die, so we just drove off in the ambulance with Jason standing there. And so we're talking about making a sequel, and it would be from Tommy Jarvis's perspective, going to the camp before the hiking stuff started, before Never Hike Alone. You kind of start before that. Tommy Jarvis looking at the camp and looking for Jason because something doesn't feel right. Going back, and then the hiker unrests Jason, and kind of go from there. And then from the ambulance scene at the end, we take the kid there to get him some help, and then Vinny Augustaferro, who played the deputy, is now the sheriff of the town, and he meets us there, and then Jason comes busting through the door, all hell breaks loose, trying to get me, and he kills 2 deputies, so that's what we're thinking about doing.
Where is that at pre-production wise? Because it sounds like they got the story pretty much done.
Yeah, they're doing a fundraiser for it now,
Okay.
so we're looking for funding, and I don't know what's going to happen with all this litigation going on, so
Yeah.
it's hard to say.
Too serious.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What's it like playing Tommy Jarvis in the video game? Like actually?
Oh, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, it was a blast. I just went and did the voiceover, and then I told many of you who came to the table, they sent me over to approve my likeness. They sent me over to somebody with dark hair and a 5 o'clock shadow, and it's like, guy, who's doing this? Because I can't even grow a 5 o'clock shadow now, let alone when I was in my 20s. So we went back I had a Jay Leno chin. That was the first image, so we kind of tweaked it. I said, here's my picture. Here's what I look like in Friday the 13th Part 6, and here's what you want to put as the character, and we just kind of manipulated it. But it's been fun. My older brother called me. He lives in Missouri. He goes, is there something you want to tell me? I said, what? He goes, are you in a video game?
Oh yeah.
Because his son is 16. He's been playing. He goes, I said, oh yeah. He goes, well, thanks for telling me, because my son's been playing you all the time. My nephew. So it's been fun, and I was playing when it first came out. I got to be myself, and some other camper freaking killed me. I was like, how is that even possible?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
I was so pissed off. They since removed that option. So wrong.
That was me. That was me
Yeah.
playing, by the way. See you later.
Yeah, go ahead.
Two questions. For you, did you end up getting injured in the final battle scene in Part 6, like the fire in the water and all that scene?
Well, that sequence took place in 2 different places. On top of the water was in Covington, where we shot the film, and the underwater stuff was in the city of industry in a big pool. That
The
was.
shooting the scene, did you get injured at all?
No, but the fire did get, I complained about because I could feel the heat from the fire at one point. So that was about it. And the stunt guy had a chip on his shoulder, didn't like me for some reason, so there was always an issue. In the opening sequence where the spirit gets hit by the lightning bolt, it's steaming.
Right.
There's steam coming off. It's very subtle. But the spirit's here, I'm here, they got a fan blowing this way, and the guy's spraying, I don't know what. to make it smoke. I don't know if it's.
It was horrible.
I don't know if it was
Those chemicals were
citric
so
acid
bad.
or what
Yeah.
it was.
It was
It's like
horrible.
it's like going into my face.
Yeah.
And no one said anything, but it turned out to be water, but didn't know what it was because they had put the chemical on the spear and then sprayed it with water
Oh,
to make,
I got
it,
you,
to make it
yeah.
activated. So
The guy with the hat, stand up. Harry Manfredini.
Ladies and gentlemen, he looks
Am
just
I
like
right?
him. Yeah, he looks just like him.
Yeah, everybody,
Yeah.
anybody?
We love your work.
You know who Harry Manfredini is?
I love your signature.
Yeah.
On the,
Man, do you look like him? I thought he came. I said, how come he's not signing autographs? Sorry to interrupt you. Go. What's your second question?
Oh, yeah, it's for William.
What's up?
So you guys are so short in the movie.
Yeah.
You guys so short time.
Yes.
Two-part question. One, so like the first part was like, would you rather have like it like stay as it was, or would you like to have it where you like was one of the only survivors in the movie?
I'll tell you what's cool. What was cool about that movie is that I booked that job, and because I'm a ghost in the movie, despite me getting killed in the first half hour, she keeps dreaming of me and seeing me. So I had the actor's dream, really, because I went to the location, was there for 2.5 months, and worked like 8 days. So I was basically living in the hotel, and it was a lot of fun back in that day to make a movie, as that these guys will tell you. I reinvented having fun in all that free time. So the answer to that question is no. I had so much fun, and I'm very good friends with Kane Hodder. So in order to spend time there and be in the franchise and be a lazy actor where I worked some days and I didn't work, it was absolutely perfect. And let's face it, when you're a young man in a Friday the 13th film, you're not really doing soliloquies. You basically pee in the woods and then you get killed. So I felt like they got their money's worth, and so did I.
would you go to the set on your days off? And
Hell no, are you crazy? Me? I was hungover.
Okay.
There's nothing worse than visiting a movie set that you're not working on. I'll just tell you that much. You're there for like 5 minutes. You're like, great, have a good time, guys. See you. It was nice seeing you. Everyone's busy,
It would like to have a video game character. Like,
Yes, I would love it. When he was saying, I was just so jealous. I'm just like, don't say anything. Don't say you're jealous. Yes, I would love it. I want to be in Pac-Man first, though. Anyway, thank you for asking that question.
Anybody else have a question for the group? Yeah.
Do you feel working or performing in a Friday the 13th film affected your ability to get jobs in future films? Like you carried a stigma to it with like some people see that on your resume and go,
Go ahead.
On the contrary.
I think on the contrary.
On the
yeah.
contrary.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people view horror films as like just a step up above from porno films.
That's
like,
not,
you know what I mean?
Any-
not the 80s, man.
No.
If you were a young actor, sorry to steamroll here, but if you were an actor in the 80s and the 90s, if you hadn't been in a Friday the 13th, you were nobody. Because literally all of my friends that were working had been in one.
And or wanted to be in
They
one.
wanted to be in
People
one.
on soap operas wanted to be in.
Yeah.
It's just just another chink in your.
Yeah. And-
Something that's fun to do.
And it's like, we don't even really know each other, but like, you see each other in the audition room and you go to movies and you see and you go, yeah, hi, how's it going? You're in the same alumni, like you're somehow friends through proxy of being in
Yeah.
this amazing historical thing that even when we drop dead, you guys, some of you will see on.
And
us in this franchise.
not to cut Bill off, but the only reason that the film is what it is today is because of the fans.
Yeah.
You guys are like, you have no idea. I think there are more Friday the 13th fans than there are Nightmare on Elm Street fans or anything
I'm
like
sure
that,
of it.
because every convention I go to, you guys are really dynamite. You are the ones that know. A lot of you people know more about me than I know about myself. It's incredible. I mean, it really is incredible how great the fans are, and they're the ones that made this movie what it is today. When people say, somebody says, Steve Dash is Jason, what? No way. Everybody says no way. I have to say Google Steve Dash, and then they'll see. I mean, that's being in a Friday the 13th film is a big plus.
Yeah.
The fans are huge. I just had lunch with Vinny Gustafari, who played the deputy in Part 6, and he goes, the fans are great. I've done worked with some great directors, worked on some incredible films. David Mamet and projects and blah, blah, blah. He goes, and I'm getting like Friday the 13th fan mail from Denmark.
Still, yeah.
You know, it's like, they're amazing.
Anytime
It's
anyone
amazing.
walks up to that table, I'm still surprised. Like, I did like so many other things. I was 17. You do know that, right? Like, yeah, still give me your autograph. It's like the greatest alumni to be a part of. It really is. It feels really good.
And the fans make it even more, just to stick by the franchise, because it's been so disjointed and the story doesn't follow anything, and it's just like all over the friggin' place. You know, going to bars and, you know,
Yeah.
it's confusing.
Don't forget going to Manhattan. That one was
Yeah.
a little bit of a
Oh,
stretch.
yeah. Canada, Manhattan.
Oh, let's not forget the treasurer, Jason X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I walked in a little bit late, so
Did you bring a note?
Yeah.
Forgive me if you already answered this question, but this is for Steve. And I know that there's a lot of controversy between who was Jason and it was you and.
I already answered it. Sit down. Talk to me at my table. They already heard it.
Okay, well.
You're out. Show up on time next time.
Miserable.
Next. Yes, ma'am. There's one of my original fans right there.
Yeah, there you go. Gary Garcia.
You know, you just said a really nice, wonderful, endearing compliment for all of us guys sitting back here. But the fact of the matter is, we would not be here or your fans or have anything to do with you. We know the number 13, but that would be about it. If it hadn't been for you, and still today, you two guys, Bill and Tom, you guys look normal, you know? And I think you act more normal than not. But I gotta tell Steve, you are still, see, you're giving me goosebumps. You are iconic. I mean, you are.
Are you married?
Oh,
It's my mom.
Daddy!
yeah. Oh, ladies and gentlemen. Is there a minister in the house? Ladies and gentlemen, let's do this.
And applause. But you, Steve, I mean, the fact that you guys take time out of your schedule, and you guys all need to know this. I mean, these guys are somebodies.
Oh.
They have been somebodies for decades now. And for them to come on a Father's Day, no less. I think they're all fathers.
I'm barren.
You know? They came, and so you guys, one who's on this.
Thank you very much.
I'll see
How do
you
call
later.
that? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good night, everybody.
I had a question. What is your guys' favorite project that you've worked on that's not Friday the 13th?
Well, I can answer that straight up. It was the first film that had a major part in that was Return of the Living Dead. That for me was great shooting it at the time, but it became more special the more I worked in Hollywood. Just the experience and working with Dan O'Bannon, who also wrote it and directed it, for him to give us the liberties of a collaboration. I mean, I remember I'd been working for 3 weeks and had gone home. I think I was living with my grandmother at the time, and the apartment next door to her, she owned the building, and she said no to me, and it was like I hadn't heard that word for like 3 weeks, and so then it made me realize how great of an experience it was, because it was a collaboration at the time.
I'd have to say George Romero and Tom Savini's remake of Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
I feel like I had somehow, again, bamboozled my way into acting parts, but by the time I did Night of the Living Dead, I actually did know how to act. So I was like, okay, this is actually fun, and I learned to let scenes breathe and really think about what I was doing other than just, kind of walk through it. And to have been booked and then have lunch with George Romero, and again being starstruck and just staring, like he's talking to me about the movie, and I'm just looking like, You're George Romero. That's like my only response. So that was the most fun that I think I ever had. And I'll just say really quickly, I have a movie coming out that I just directed called My Babysitter the Superhero. It's like Mrs. Doubtfire meets Power Rangers, and please watch it. Very funny. So anyway, it's not monsters. Well, it is monsters, but it's like an old lady in a Power Ranger outfit.
I actually have two, and they're not horror. Both of them you can see on YouTube. As a matter of fact, I did a pilot for True TV called Taxi Wars, and if you go on YouTube and you put Steve Dash, Taxi Wars, you can see the pilot. It runs about 8-10 minutes, I think, that we shot for them. And there's another film I did called Trust Me. You go on YouTube, Trust Me, and I play a lead role in a film. It's a mafia film, obviously. So both of those are my favorites, and sorry about the horror, but my favorite horror film is Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
What is your guys' favorite scary movie? Friday, Universal, or what was your favorite scary movie that you saw at like an age where it really
Wait Until Dark was, because they showed that nice, in I think elementary school. I mean, the whole everybody jumped. I mean, must have been 300 kids watching it, and everyone just leapt out of their seats. So that was the first scary movie that I'd seen.
Mine is not a lot of people know it, but The Innocents. You know The Innocents, where Deborah Kerr is the nanny. It's a black and white film. You got to watch it. She's a nanny where she's kind of a shitty nanny, and it's all English people, and they're like, your next and final only job is to be the nanny of these two kids in this old house, right? And then she goes there, and there's like kind of these three storylines going on. Is the house haunted? Are the kids crazy? Is she crazy? It's one of those movies where you just are under the edge of your seat the whole time trying to figure out. I love that kind of slow burn horror, which seems to kind of be trying to make a little bit of a comeback, which is great. I don't know if anybody saw that new one that seems super scary. What's that
Hereditary?
one? Yeah. Is that good, that movie? Yeah. It seems like, but I like that kind of slow burn horror. So I was never really into splatter things by proxy of having been in so many of them.
Frankenstein.
Nice. There you go.
I'm from old school, so
Yeah, me too.
I was a little kid when Frankenstein came out, scared the shit out of me. That was it. Your Dracula, the Mummy, Abbott and Costello, and Frankenstein.
The best movie ever. That's one of the best movies ever. Yeah.
Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein and
best.
the Wolfman,
Yeah.
Wolfman too. Yeah.
Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, Abbott and Costello and Frankenstein just had its 70th anniversary.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Give me Laurel and Hardy and Abbott and Costello, and I'm happy.
Really good. Good stuff.
I did stand-up comedy for a couple of years, so that's why I'm
been doing it for the last hour,
I'm
too.
into more. Okay, that's right.
We got time for one more question. Does anybody have one? All the way in the back?
I just want to know your thoughts on the remake, the Friday the 13th
The
remake.
2009 one?
The one
With Derek Mears, you mean?
Derek Mears, yeah.
That's a piece of shit. They wrap gauze around his head for the part 2. Are you kidding me? Why didn't they put a bag on him? What are they wrapping the gauze around?
He did wear a bag.
And he's 8'3". I mean, come on.
I didn't see it.
I didn't see it.
He actually had a throwback to the bag from Friday the 13th too.
I actually don't
But he
think
didn't wear it on his head, did he?
No, he didn't.
Oh, he did. Okay.
I actually don't
It
even
was
think
a
I was
wrap-
aware
it was
there
a
was one until you
wraparound.
brought it up.
Yeah,
So.
he had
They didn't have a bag on him. They wrapped gauze around his head or some shit.
You know what's
he had a bag with a rope around it.
You know what's weird? When I did Friday the 13th, they actually asked me to wear a bag over my head in between shots.
And that's how you follow over there
Yeah,
with
okay.
that one. So, everybody, one more time, Steve Dash,
Thank you,
Thom
guys.
Mathews.